Our tale opens on November 12, 1942, in Richmond, California. Frigid morning mist blanketed San Francisco Bay, dampening the sounds of striking metal and welding flames as spectators assembled along the shoreline. Standing before them was a fully constructed cargo freighter, 441 feet in length, over 28 million pounds in weight, prepared to enter the water at Permanente Metals Corporation's Yard No. 2. Yet this vessel was unlike any other. It had been constructed in merely 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes. A process traditionally requiring 6 to 8 months of skilled labor had been compressed into less than 1 week. The assembled workforce, over 1,000 strong, stood back from the hull of the SS Robert E. Peary. These weren't seasoned shipwrights or maritime veterans, but individuals who just weeks earlier had worked as farmers, educators, homemakers, and office workers. As journalists scribbled frantically and camera flashes illuminated the scene, they understood they were observing something beyond a vessel's christening. This marked the dawn of an industrial transformation, an American transformation, emerging not from combat zones but from ingenuity, velocity, and resolve. A revolutionary calculation was taking shape, measured not through battle tactics, but through manufacturing figures that would determine the war's fate. This transformation's origins trace back 2 years, to December 27, 1940, when Henry J. Kaiser inked his initial shipbuilding agreement. Kaiser was 58, a construction titan recognized for erecting dams, not vessels. He'd never constructed a ship, never operated a maritime facility, yet he assured the U.S. Maritime Commission he'd deliver 30 cargo ships for Britain within 24 months. The established shipbuilding industry scoffed. To their eyes, Kaiser represented a charlatan, an interloper with zero business invading their domain. However, Kaiser perceived vessels differently than they did. He viewed them as enormous steel constructions, something assemblable using Ford's automotive methodology. When Clay Bedford, Kaiser's lead engineer, toured Ford's production facility in Detroit, he observed chassis flowing past workstations where laborers attached individual parts sequentially, each worker executing one straightforward, specialized function. Bedford returned to California carrying a concept destined to revolutionize everything. What if ships could be manufactured like automobiles? Traditional shipbuilders considered it preposterous. They employed rivets, millions upon millions, each one heated, pounded, and secured by crews of expert craftsmen operating in flawless coordination. Kaiser suggested something unprecedented: welding vessels together instead. Faster, more economical, and structurally superior, but unproven at this magnitude. Vice Admiral Emery Land, Maritime Commission Director, questioned its viability. Welding such massive steel quantities seemed dangerously experimental, but the Allies faced desperation. German submarines were destroying vessels faster than American replacement capacity. Britain's continued existence hinged on supplies that weren't reaching their destination. Against this dire situation, Kaiser's experiment received authorization, not from confidence but from absence of alternatives. Rising from Richmond, California's marshy terrain, Kaiser's facility emerged like something from futuristic imagination. It resembled nothing like conventional shipyards, with their towering skeletal cranes and singular, confined construction channels. This one sprawled openly, organized like an automobile manufacturing plant. Enormous steel segments were fabricated in isolated zones, transported via railway, and hoisted by colossal cranes capable of positioning complete ship modules. Veteran maritime builders who inspected the site reacted with dismay. They declared it contradicted every established principle, yet couldn't dispute its functionality. Kaiser hired anyone prepared to acquire skills. Thousands responded: agricultural workers, administrative assistants, teenagers, elderly women. He trained them not across years but across weeks. Each individual mastered one particular operation, fusing a joint, positioning plates, or constructing compartments. By decomposing work into reproducible procedures, he converted everyday citizens into a manufacturing force. Within months, construction duration started dropping dramatically. The initial Liberty vessel required 197 days completion. The subsequent one, 169 days, then 128. By spring 1942, they were completing ships within merely 70 days. Traditional facilities, bound to outdated practices and established customs, couldn't match the pace. Kaiser's transformation extended further. He implemented simultaneous construction, fabricating multiple vessel sections concurrently. Rather than awaiting hull completion before engine installation, separate teams constructed the hull while others assembled the engine and mounting framework elsewhere. When both reached readiness, cranes lowered the complete assembly into position within a single day. Tasks formerly consuming weeks now finished within hours. Naval authorities labeled it insanity, but outcomes provided undeniable evidence. Vice Admiral Howard Vickery, initially opposing Kaiser's unconventional methods, eventually conceded. Perfection, he acknowledged, becomes the adversary of adequate. Kaiser's vessels lacked elegance, but they existed. They remained seaworthy, and they transported cargo when urgently needed. Rivalry soon developed between Kaiser's various facilities, his son Edgar overseeing Oregon operations while Bedford directed Richmond. Each location attempted surpassing the other, shattering records repeatedly. September 1942, Oregon completed a vessel within just 10 days. Then, 1 month afterward, Richmond determined to attempt the unthinkable, constructing one in under half that duration. Midnight, November 8, 1942, over 1,000 laborers commenced assembling the Robert E. Peary. Prefabricated components already stood positioned. The forward section, aft section, engine compartment, and cargo spaces, all constructed independently and prepared for integration. Welders, fitters, and crane operators rotated through continuous shifts without pause. By day 4, the vessel stood complete. November 12th, at 3:30 p.m., the Peary descended the launching ramp into San Francisco Bay, fully constructed in exactly 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes. The assembled crowd burst into celebration. Vice Admiral Land, previously skeptical of the entire concept, stood motionless in disbelief. "Half a year ago," he remarked, "I'd have deemed this impossible. Henry Kaiser has rendered conventional knowledge irrelevant." What transpired next constituted nothing less than industrial wizardry. Additional shipyards adopted his techniques. By 1943, average Liberty ship completion time dropped to merely 42 days. America now manufactured 3 vessels daily, exceeding German submarine destruction rates. Kaiser's triumph transformed not merely the conflict, but America's labor composition itself. His facilities employed nearly 200,000 individuals at maximum capacity. 40,000 were women, Rosie the Riveters, demonstrating that capability and determination transcended gender boundaries. Thousands of Black Americans secured well-compensated positions in integrated teams, acquiring trades that permanently altered their economic trajectories. Kaiser didn't merely manufacture vessels, he constructed communities. Richmond's population exploded from 23,000 inhabitants to over 100,000 within 3 years. In Oregon, he established Vanport City, a completely new municipality housing 40,000 shipyard employees and their relatives. And for their welfare, Kaiser created a medical initiative that eventually became Kaiser Permanente, among America's largest healthcare organizations today. By 1945's conclusion, his facilities had generated nearly 1,500 vessels, exceeding 1/4 of America's complete wartime maritime production. Collectively, 2,710 Liberty ships were manufactured nationwide, transporting armored vehicles, military trucks, munitions, and provisions to every global theater. They appeared plain, sailed slowly, and looked utilitarian, but they sufficed to secure victory. Even following triumph, the principles persisted. The modular assembly and prefabrication methodologies Kaiser pioneered became the foundation for contemporary shipbuilding globally. From Nagasaki's Japanese facilities to South Korea's massive Hyundai installations, his approaches disseminated into residential construction, bridge engineering, and aerospace manufacturing. The principle that common workers, adequately trained and properly coordinated, could accomplish extraordinary achievements became fundamental to American industrial philosophy. The Liberty vessels themselves, engineered for 5-year lifespans, frequently operated for decades. Several survive today. The SS Jeremiah O'Brien navigates proudly from San Francisco, while the John W. Brown remains preserved in Baltimore as an active historical exhibit. Their riveted predecessors from the traditional era have long disappeared. Yet these welded workhorses persist. When Admiral Chester Nimitz contemplated the war years afterward, he observed, "Japan's military leadership believed they could destroy ships faster than our construction capacity. They failed to account for Henry Kaiser. That represented victory's genuine secret, not exclusively battlefield valor, but innovation's relentless force domestically. Kaiser's authentic legacy transcended the steel vessels he manufactured. It embodied the principle that boundaries are misconceptions, that custom isn't absolute truth, that everyday individuals, provided proper resources and confidence, can achieve the seemingly impossible. From that first agreement in 1940, through the Robert E. Peary in 1942, to the final Liberty vessel in 1945, Henry Kaiser and his workforce didn't merely construct ships, they constructed evidence. Evidence that human creativity, when liberated from antiquated restrictions, can transform existence itself. And that explains why, generations later, whenever a contemporary vessel descends its launching way in half the previously required duration, somewhere within that resonance of steel meeting water echoes the sound of the Robert E. Peary's launch, a sound that announced to the world that the impossible had just become reality.